What's going on, everyone? So here's the thing today. I posted a video the other day, and I was talking about the Jeff Wilson trade that a lot of us have been talking about, where he picked up a $130,000 Steph Curry card. And in the process of that trade, he gave up a Mickey Mantle Bowman rookie, $30-something thousand, a couple of Gaudy Babe Ruths, and some other cards. And there have been a lot of people going back and forth. And I think that this sort of thing is a good discussion for the hobby. I mean, it's like sport talk radio. If everyone had the same opinion, sports talk radio wouldn't be interesting. The thing that's interesting about discussions is that we don't all have the same opinion, and that is okay. I'm totally okay with somebody thinking that Jeff Wilson got the better end of that deal. That's fine. I have no problem with that. And I think that we should all be open-minded to the differing opinions and the potential outcomes that we don't know how that will turn out. So one of the things that came up time and time again in the comments, and I've got hundreds of comments on that video, but one of the common themes was young people just don't care about old historical players. They don't care about Bill Russell. They don't care about Ty Cobb or Babe Ruth. They don't care about Wilt Chamberlain. They don't care about Jim Brown or Otto Graham. And that was the big discussion as a result of that video. And then other people were going back going, but collecting LaMelo Ball, collecting Bull, right? Or Ant-Man, or Joe Burrow, or, whichever player from whichever sport, that's not a smart move. And other people said, but they're relevant. People like collecting those. The reason they have value is because they are popular and people can watch them and root for them. And the demand is really high because that's what young people are watching. And then the counter arguments are, well, young people are, they've lost their minds. They don't know what they're talking about. Young people are, just in it for a quick buck. And I'm not trying to take sides here. I'm really not. But I can understand both sides of this. Demand is extremely important in the value of cards. There's no doubt about it. Supply is important too. But even if there's just two of something, but nobody wants it, it's not going to have value. Supply is important. And one of the common things going out there for the counter argument was that these modern cards have limited supplies because they're numbered. And then the argument back, and we know the arguments back and forth. So I just wanted to kind of look into these topics just a little bit. First thing I want to talk about is young people. Now, I'm a high school teacher. I've been dealing with high schoolers. I just finished my 21st year as a high school teacher. And I've seen a lot of students come through my classrooms. And there have been differences over the years. Are high schoolers different now than they were 21 years ago? Or were they different than they were 50 years ago? That's the first thing I want to talk about. So check out this quote right here. Let's take a look at this quote that I think is really interesting.
Children now love luxury. They have bad manners, contempt for authority. They show disrespect for elders and love chatter in place of exercise. Children now are tyrants, not the servants of their households. They no longer rise when elders enter the room. They contradict their parents, chatter before company, gobble up dainties at the table, cross their legs, and tyrannize their teachers. Who said this? Socrates. Socrates said this in like 400 BC. We're talking about 2,500 years ago. This is what a philosopher said about the youth of that particular time. You would think that this would be the same comments that we would hear right now.
So we have a philosopher from well over 2,000 years ago, about 2,500 years ago, made that statement. Think about that. 2,500 years ago, the adults in the older generation had those feelings about the younger generation. And I think there are people making those exact statements about the younger generation every day around the world right now. So is it that the younger generation genuinely is in a different spot, in a worse place than they were 100 years ago? Possibly. I guess time will tell. But when we look at a quote like that from 2,500 years ago, I hope that it gives us perspective that we all take a step back and look and go, maybe we're just becoming the old guys. Maybe we're just becoming the old ones who don't understand the younger generation. That's possible. Is it likely? I don't know. But I think that we should consider that. Now, I think that you're probably saying, Greg, what are we doing? We're supposed to be talking about sports cards, and now we're talking about philosophers from 500 BC. What are we doing? Well, I think what we're doing is we're looking at the psychology of collectors, and that's very relevant. Another thing that I think that we need to talk about is the whole counter argument to the vintage collector, which is numbered cards create a short supply. There aren't a lot of them. There are lots and lots of Ty Cobb cards out there, but there are not very many of this parallel of Drew Jones or Jackson Holliday. Or what about a 1-1 Trevor Lawrence? There's only one of them. That's a counter argument. Now, is that a valid argument? I don't know. But take a look at this that I just looked up to see how valid some of this stuff is.
So let's go into eBay here and just go up to the search string. And let's just type in, some of the hot players out there. So Jackson Holliday auto. Look at how many Jackson Holliday autographs are out there right now. Now, a lot of them are similar and they're just different colors or different parallels. Let's look at how many sold. So this isn't just how many are out there. So this is how many have sold and how many are currently available. Not to mention all the ones that aren't for sale on eBay. So if we look at Drew Jones, here, look at how many sold. That's a lot that have sold recently. If we scroll down, there's one after another after another. So is a Drew Jones autograph really that rare if hundreds of them have sold? If we take it off the sold list and we just look at what's listed, we got several hundred more. And there's different colors and different parallels, but I don't really know how rare they really are. So, if we look up Joe Burrow autographs, there's tons of them. Tons and tons of Joe Burrow autographs. I don't think it's ever been easier to get the autograph of your favorite player than it is right now. And then we look at the sold ones, and there's thousands that have sold. And this is just through eBay, which is one marketplace. So I think that we have to consider, is this really a rare item? And I think you could make the argument that it's not really that rare to have these guys' cards autographed. But then you start looking, you go, okay, well, if we look at some of these, I mean, look at how many of those have sold. That's a lot that have sold. And if we go down it and we take off how many, we change it from just sold to listed, we're talking about thousands. Look at this, thousands. Is it rare to pick one of these up? Well, what if we change it to a one of one? Look at how many one of ones are out there. Is a one of one rare if there are a bunch of them? How rare is a one of one when you type in the player and you type in one and one and there's just like tons of them? Now, is it really rare, or have they just made a few tweaks and made one make a tweak, make another one, make a tweak, make another one, make a tweak? I mean, the whole thought of something being one of one is that there's only one of them.
So is a one of one really a one of one if there are hundreds of one of ones? I mean, the thing about a one of one is there's only one of them. But if there are 300 Tom Brady one of ones, are they really one of one? Well, yeah, there is just one of that one, but there's a lot of just one of that one. So how valid is the argument that a numbered card, now if we look at, a Jackson Holiday, first Bowman auto, if we've got a one of one and a one of 5 and a one of 10 and a one of 25 and a one of 50 and a one of 100 and a one of 150 and one of 250 and one of 500, how many are they really one of 25? Or is it just a bunch of the same card with different colors or different designs? I don't know the answer. Time will tell. And supply and demand will tell. But I think that it's fair to consider the fact that when you have a bunch of the same card, but the border is just a different color, is it really a one of one or a one of 5 or a one of 25? It's going to be interesting to see how history plays out of that. Now, to me, the modern cards are gorgeous. They are absolutely beautiful. You look at one of these cracked ice cards, you look at one of these lava cards, you look at the different parallels, and they're gorgeous cards. And I have some modern cards. I like soccer a lot. I have some modern soccer cards in my personal collection. Do I think they're going to be worth a lot of money someday? Even the numbered ones? No, I personally, I don't really think they'll have a ton of value. Even though soccer is the most popular sport in the world, I think they'll have some value. And I think if Fanatics really does 10x the hobby, and if the hobby really does continue to go worldwide, it is possible that the values will go up. But when I have a, Gio Reyna soccer card or a Christian Pulisic soccer card that's out of 50, and there are only 50 of that parallel in the world, that's definitely better than the base card where there are like hundreds of thousands of it. But is it going to be a card that people look at as, well, there are only 25 in the world, and I like Gio Reyna, so I need to have that card? I don't really know. I don't really think so. But I guess the real question that I have is, do we think that young collectors will eventually pivot to vintage cards and vintage players? That's the question that I get over and over and over and over. Newer modern collectors say nobody cares about those. The young kids don't care about those vintage players. They're not relevant to them. And I can see both sides of that. No, I mean, I had a comment recently from an elementary school teacher, and the teacher said that he did a famous person report for his students, and he had like 5 students use Jackie Robinson as their famous person. So doesn't that mean Jackie Robinson is relevant? I mean, we have Jackie Robinson Day in Major League Baseball, where everybody wears number 42. The number 42 is retired for the entire league. Now, I think that Jackie Robinson isn't the best player of all time, but I think that he's the most important player of all time. And so I think Jackie Robinson has lasting value long term and will be relevant long term. I think younger collectors are eventually going to slowly have more appreciation for those players from the past. I think that they will. I could be wrong. I never saw Babe Ruth play, Mickey Mantle play, Hank Aaron, Willie Mays. I never saw Ty Cobb or Walter Johnson or Christy Mathewson. I never saw any of them play. Not a single swing. I never saw Jim Brown play in a football game. There's some tape that I'll watch and see how amazing he was. I'll see clips of Earl Campbell running people over. And I saw Jerry Rice. And I loved Jerry Rice. The 49ers are my team. I grew up when I watched every play of every 49er game. I love Joe Montana. But honestly, I don't look at Joe Montana or Jerry Rice as more desirable to collect personally than Jim Brown or Johnny Unitas. But I never saw them play. And I did see Joe Montana and Jerry Rice play. Does that make me a unicorn? Does that make me an anomaly? Does that make me different than everyone else? Well, I don't think so. I think there's a lot of people like me. I think there's a lot of people that as we grow up, what we do is we enjoy the younger players, but we gain an enhanced appreciation for the players of the past, of the players who made the games what they are today. And I don't think that's going to go away. Just like people were complaining in 500 BC with Socrates about the younger generation not having appreciation for the older generations, I still hear those same complaints today. And frankly, I think that the youth of today are going to continue to adopt the same beliefs and the same appreciation for the past that my generation did and the generations before me. I don't think you need to have seen a player play to have appreciation for them, and I'm evidence of that. So how's it going to play out? I don't know. I don't know how it's going to play out. But I do think that picking a prospect picking the young, hot prospect in the minors who's ranked really highly is literally like going to the roulette wheel and putting all of your money on one number. It could hit, and if it hits, you'll hit pretty well. But most of those bets on those other numbers become borderline worthless pretty quickly. So to me, picking modern prospects is like picking the roulette table. Now, picking Steph Curry and the best Steph Curry rookie card out there, that's not the same thing. Because Steph Curry is at least a top 10 player of all time. And there's a lot of demand for Steph Curry, and I anticipate it staying that way. But do I personally think that that card is going to be worth $130,000 to $150,000 in 10 years? I don't personally, but time will tell. And I could very well be wrong. What happens with the market is going to be really interesting. Is vintage going to just collect dust and go away? Maybe. Somebody said in the comments, nobody who's a vintage car collector collects Model Ts. Well, first of all, I disagree. I think they do. I have a cousin. Well, it's technically my mom's cousin. He has a Model T. And it's awesome. And when he takes it to car shows, it gets a huge amount of attention. Does it get the huge amount of attention from the 12-year-olds? Or does it get the huge amount of attention from the 75-year-olds? To be honest, what I've seen, a little of each. Would I rather have a 67 Camaro or a 67 Mustang than a Model T? Personally, yes. Would I rather have a 67 Mustang or a 2023 Charger? I'd rather have the Mustang. It's going to be interesting. But more than anything, I'll continue to go back to we should all be collecting what we like. And if you like modern cards, that's what you should collect. And if you like vintage cards, you should collect vintage cards. Will either of them crash? They're all going to crash at certain times, and then they'll, I believe, a lot of them will recover. We're all held hostage to what happens in the economy and the available liquid income and expendable income in our household finances that we can spend on luxury items and hobbies like cards. Collect what you like, but be careful of what you're collecting and look at history to see the likelihood of a card continuing to climb or potentially plummeting. Because if you go to the roulette table, you could hit it big, but there's a really, really good chance that you're not. And if you were to put money into the S&P 500, it may not be as exciting as the roulette table. But your chances of making money aren't guaranteed, but it's more likely. So, vintage cards to me are like the S&P 500 or the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Modern cards, to me, are like the roulette table. If you like playing roulette, go play some roulette. Just be responsible with how much money you're putting out there. If you like the S&P, you should put money into the S&P. The way that I'm wired, I'm the S&P all day long, and I'm vintage cards all day long. Doesn't mean that I'm right and others are wrong. just means that that's my preference. And I think it's a safer bet. And for me, it's more enjoyable. So that's my take. Tell me your take below. I'm super interested in this topic, and I love hearing what everyone has to say.